My name is Tupac Shakur. They call me Doc. I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine. I'm an acupuncturist. I am the stepfather of Tupac.
Tupac Shakur's death has remained one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in music history. For years, fans wondered about the real story behind the night he passed away. Decades later, a sealed statement from his doctor was finally opened, revealing shocking details about his last days. What did Dr. Tupac Shakur know? And how does it change everything we thought we knew? The mysterious statement. In the early months of 2025, a discovery was made that no one outside a very small circle could have anticipated. In a secure private office tucked away in Los Angeles, the personal files of Dr. Tupac Shakur, his stepfather who had treated Tupac Shakur, was being organized. Among the usual medical records, appointment notes, and insurance forms, there lay a single envelope unlike anything else. It was thick, cream-colored, and sealed with a wax emblem bearing the initials of Dr. Shakur. This envelope was marked plainly, "To be opened after the death of Tupac Shakur." No one remembered how long it had been there. Some staff members speculated it had sat untouched for decades. The secrecy surrounding it was immediately clear. Dr. Shakur had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that its contents would remain hidden until the precise moment dictated. There were no instructions for interim review, no summaries, and no hints about what might be inside. For decades, the envelope had been a silent sentinel over secrets that could change everything people thought they knew about Tupac's final days. The decision to leave such a statement sealed was unusual, even for someone with experience handling high-profile patients. Doctors often leave notes, memos, or statements for future reference, but these are normally medical in nature or for legal documentation. This, however, was different. The envelope suggested intention, a careful plan, and a determination to protect knowledge that might be dangerous if revealed too early. Friends of Tupac and insiders in the music world often spoke of how fiercely protective Dr. Shakur had been of his patient, even during the most chaotic years of Tupac's life. That protection seemed to extend beyond ordinary medical confidentiality. The envelope was finally opened in March of 2025, nearly 25 years after Tupac's death. Only a handful of people were present. Dr. Shakur's closest assistant, a legal representative trusted by Tupac's estate, and one archivist who had been asked to witness the process. The air was tense. Everyone present understood that the contents could be explosive, touching on personal, medical, and perhaps even legal matters that had never been revealed to the public. The anticipation felt almost unbearable. When the envelope was carefully broken and the papers inside unfolded, reactions were immediate and profound. The documents contained detailed medical observations, private notes about Tupac's health, and references to circumstances surrounding events that had occurred just weeks before his fatal shooting. Dr. Shakur had written in precise, deliberate handwriting, never revealing opinions unnecessarily, yet the words carried weight. They described not just health details, but the pressures Tupac had faced, warnings he had ignored, and decisions he had made that would ultimately lead to irreversible consequences. Everyone who saw the statement understood immediately that this was not a routine disclosure. It was personal, it was confidential, and it had the potential to rewrite public understanding of Tupac Shakur's final years, the decisions he made, and the world around him at that time. The fact that Dr. Shakur had sealed it himself, insisting that no one see it until after Tupac's death, suggested that some truths were too delicate, too explosive, or too controversial to reveal while Tupac was alive. Questions immediately formed in the minds of those present. What had Dr. Shakur known that no one else did? Why had he felt the need to hide it for so long? And most importantly, could the contents of this envelope change how history remembered Tupac? The answers were hidden within the pages, waiting to be read, understood, and shared carefully with those who had the right to see them. As the team carefully cataloged the envelope's contents, they realized that what lay before them was more than medical notes. It was a window into Tupac's private life, his fears, his pain, and the pressures that surrounded him in the months and years before his death. It was a statement meant to protect his story, yet it also carried the power to shock the world. The discovery of this envelope was the beginning of a journey into secrets no one had fully known. And as the first pages were read aloud, it became clear that what Tupac's doctor had documented would lead to revelations touching not just health, but the very circumstances that defined his final days. Questions formed naturally in the minds of those present. Was everything Tupac experienced in his last months as it seemed? Could this statement finally explain mysteries that had surrounded him for decades? And perhaps most importantly, who was ready to face the truths it revealed? To understand, we must step back and examine the last months of Tupac Shakur's life in detail. Tupac's final days. The final months of Tupac Shakur's life were marked by intensity, both creatively and personally. He was touring, recording music, and managing an ever-growing public profile. But behind the scenes, he faced mounting pressures that few outside his inner circle could truly understand. Legal battles, personal feuds, and violent threats were part of his daily reality. Alongside this, Tupac struggled with injuries from past incidents, exhaustion from relentless schedules, and stress that affected both his mind and body. Dr. Shakur, who treated him, had become not just a medical professional, but a confidant, someone uniquely positioned to witness the physical and emotional toll of Tupac's life. In late June of 1996, Tupac suffered from a particularly severe injury sustained during a minor altercation while traveling. Dr. Shakur, concerned for his well-being, provided treatment, but also began keeping unusually detailed notes. These notes documented not only the immediate injuries, but also warnings about potential long-term consequences. Dr. Shakur grew increasingly aware that Tupac was pushing his body beyond limits, taking risks that could have permanent effects. Medical attention alone, however, was not the entirety of Tupac's struggles. Personal and professional pressures weighed heavily. Rivalries within the music industry, disagreements with associates, and threats from outside parties created an environment of constant tension. Tupac had begun confiding in Dr. Shakur in ways he had not with others, sharing concerns about his safety and decisions he had made that could have irreversible consequences. Dr. Shakur recorded these conversations with meticulous care, knowing that one day they might need to be understood in full context. In the weeks leading up to the night of September 13, 1996, Tupac's schedule had become almost unmanageable. He was recording in multiple studios, making public appearances, and engaging in promotional work, often with little sleep or rest. Dr. Shakur had warned him repeatedly about the risks of exhaustion, but Tupac, ever driven, ignored the advice. Notes indicate that he was aware of danger, but accepted it as part of his lifestyle and career. Reading his account of those final days, it became clear that Tupac's life was far more complicated than any single headline or biography had ever captured. The sealed statement hinted at events that were never public knowledge, conflicts that had been hidden, and decisions that had ultimately shaped the tragic ending. And while the details would eventually unfold, the sense of tension, danger, and urgency that defined Tupac's last months was undeniable. Dr. Shakur's observations hinted at pressures, injuries, and choices that could explain Tupac's fate, but how did this statement survive untouched for decades? What measures were taken to protect it? And who controlled its secrets? The answers lie in how the statement was stored, hidden, and guarded from the world. How the statement survived. Dr. Shakur's sealed statement did not appear by chance. Its survival for nearly 25 years was the result of careful planning, foresight, and a deep understanding of how fragile secrets can be. After Tupac's death, Dr. Shakur did not rush to release any information, even though curiosity from fans, journalists, and associates was intense. He knew that revealing too much too soon could create chaos, legal problems, or even harm those close to Tupac. So instead, he took measures to protect the statement in ways that ensured it would remain untouched until the exact moment he deemed safe. The envelope was stored in a secure location, in a private medical office that only a handful of people had access to. Access was controlled with multiple layers of security, including locked cabinets, password-protected files, and strict instructions for anyone entering the space. Even the assistant who occasionally worked in the office had no knowledge of the envelope's contents. Only Dr. Shakur held the key to the timeline of when the statement could be opened. He made it clear that any deviation could compromise the intent and purpose of the disclosure. Over the years, the statement survived natural risks as well. Offices changed locations, staff rotated, and records were sometimes moved or discarded. Yet, through all these transitions, the envelope remained untouched. Some people might have assumed it was ordinary paperwork, nothing more than old medical notes. But Dr. Shakur's careful handwriting, the wax seal, and the bold instructions ensured that anyone handling it would notice its importance and leave it alone. Even after Dr. Shakur retired, I maintained oversight. He communicated with his legal representative and the archivist, providing guidance on where the envelope should be stored and who could access it. This chain of responsibility was critical. Had any link failed, the statement could have been lost forever, and the insights into Tupac's final days would have remained hidden. When it was finally opened in March of 2025, it was clear that Dr. Shakur's precautions had worked perfectly. Every page, every note, and every detail was intact, exactly as he had written it decades earlier. The contents offered a complete picture, untouched by interpretation, speculation, or error. Those present understood immediately that they were seeing something unique and invaluable, a historical record of one of the most important figures in music history. Dr. Shakur's foresight also reflected his understanding of human nature. He knew that if the statement were revealed too early, it could have fueled false rumors, sparked unnecessary controversy, or placed undue stress on those close to Tupac. By waiting until after Tupac's death, Dr. Shakur ensured that the truth could be considered in context, free from immediate emotional reactions. It was a decision that required patience, discipline, and a clear sense of responsibility. This careful protection meant that the statement was more than just a document. It was a bridge between past and present, a record of Tupac's struggles, his choices, and the pressures he faced. It survived not by accident, but because of deliberate action, respect for history, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Those who finally read it realized that every detail had been preserved, every warning noted, and every secret carefully guarded. The statement survived for decades, but the secrets inside were just beginning to emerge. What did Dr. Shakur reveal about Tupac's health, his choices, and the risks he faced in the last months of his life? The answers lay in the pages, and what they showed was shocking. The health struggles Tupac hid. Tupac Shakur's life was full of energy, creativity, and risk, but behind the scenes, he faced challenges that very few people knew. Dr. Shakur's statement revealed that his health was fragile in ways the public never realized. Injuries from past altercations, physical exhaustion from constant touring, and stress from his lifestyle all combined to create a dangerous situation. Tupac often ignored advice from medical professionals, pushing his body to extremes for the sake of work, fame, and personal pride. According to the statement, Tupac suffered from recurring injuries to his ribs, legs, and shoulders. Some were minor at first, but became severe over time because he refused to rest. He warned him repeatedly that ignoring these injuries could have serious consequences. There were also references to untreated bruises and internal strains that were beginning to affect his overall mobility. Despite this, Tupac continued to perform, record, and travel across the country with relentless energy, often appearing at multiple locations in a single day. He also noted that Tupac's mental health was under pressure. The combination of physical pain, professional stress, and personal conflicts created a state of constant tension. He experienced moments of anxiety, sleepless nights, and emotional exhaustion. These were not always obvious to those around him, because Tupac maintained a public persona of confidence, defiance, and control. Yet privately, he confided in his doctor about fears he had never shared with anyone else. The statement described these conversations with care, noting the contrast between Tupac's public strength and private vulnerability. One of the most startling revelations was that Tupac had suffered near-fatal episodes during the months before his death. These incidents were not widely reported and were treated quietly to avoid media attention. Dr. Shakur's notes detailed how these episodes could have been fatal if not managed carefully. The sealed statement suggested that Tupac's survival depended as much on careful medical intervention as on his own resilience. Additionally, Dr. Shakur documented risks that Tupac knowingly took. He ignored warnings about violence, threats from rivals, and the dangers of his environment. He took actions that increased his personal risk, fully aware of potential consequences. The statement made it clear that Tupac's courage, ambition, and drive often collided with real physical danger, creating a situation that required constant vigilance. Despite these challenges, Tupac's creativity never faltered. He continued to write music, film videos, and collaborate with other artists. But his doctor's notes emphasized that his body and mind were under stress that could no longer be ignored. The sealed statement revealed that medical intervention alone could not protect him from the choices he made and the world he navigated. Tupac's health struggles explained part of his vulnerability, but Dr. Shakur's statement also revealed secrets about the threats and dangers that surrounded him, who was watching, and who wanted to harm him. The next chapter explores the tension, rivalries, and dangers in Tupac's world. Threats, rivalries, and the shadow around Tupac. Tupac Shakur's life was never safe, and Dr. Shakur's statement revealed that danger followed him closely in the final months of his life. It was not just the physical risks from accidents or injuries. The threats came from people who saw him as a rival, a target, or a symbol to control. According to the statement, Tupac was aware that his fame and influence had made him a magnet for conflict, but he did not fully appreciate the extent of the dangers lurking around him. The statement described specific rivalries that had escalated in 2095 and 2096, involving known figures in the music industry, rival crews, and even individuals with unknown motives. Some conflicts were the result of professional competition. Others were personal grudges, and a few were rooted in long-standing feuds that Tupac had inherited from his life in the streets of New York and Los Angeles. Dr. Shakur noted that these tensions were more than just gossip. They carried real risks to his safety. According to Dr. Shakur, Tupac had been warned repeatedly about certain people who might attempt to harm him. Security concerns were raised at multiple levels, including during his travels, recording sessions, and public appearances. Yet Tupac often ignored advice, believing that confrontation was unavoidable and that courage and presence of mind could protect him. Dr. Shakur's notes suggested that this mindset, while admirable in some ways, exposed him to greater danger than he understood at the time. The sealed statement also detailed specific incidents where Tupac narrowly escaped attacks. There were moments when vehicles followed him on highways, unmarked threats appeared at concerts, and verbal warnings escalated into clear acts of intimidation. Each event was documented with dates, locations, and medical observations, showing how stress from these threats affected both his physical health and mental well-being. In addition to external threats, Tupac faced pressure from inside his own circle. Friends, collaborators, and even some members of his entourage sometimes acted in ways that increased tension. Dr. Shakur noted that betrayals and disagreements within the group compounded the risks Tupac faced. He had people around him who claimed loyalty, but whose actions could have endangered his life. The statement revealed that these internal conflicts were as dangerous as rivalries outside his immediate circle. Dr. Shakur emphasized that Tupac's awareness of these threats was uneven. He could be vigilant at one moment, assessing danger and planning precautions, and at the next, he would act recklessly, disregarding advice or rushing into risky situations. The sealed statement painted a picture of a man balancing genius and bravado, fully conscious of danger, yet sometimes willing to face it head-on, trusting his instincts and his charisma to protect him. One of the most chilling sections of the statement described how Tupac seemed to understand, on some level, that his life might not last long. There were moments where he spoke in private about mortality, vulnerability, and the idea that his choices could make him a target. Dr. Shakur interpreted these as signs of both self-awareness and growing concern, noting that Tupac's health issues combined with the threats around him created a situation that was increasingly perilous. The statement concluded this section with a warning. Tupac's final months were not only shaped by his talent, creativity, and influence, but also by the risks that surrounded him. Every decision he made, from touring schedules to personal confrontations, played a role in creating the environment in which he lived and ultimately passed away. So, what secret was he carrying, and why did Dr. Shakur feel it needed to be sealed for so long? The next chapter uncovers the mystery Tupac carried in silence. Tupac's hidden secret. Dr. Shakur's sealed statement did more than document health issues and external threats. It revealed a secret that Tupac kept hidden even from his closest friends, collaborators, and family. According to the statement, Tupac had been struggling with personal knowledge that he feared could change the way the world saw him, alter relationships, and even put him at further risk. The statement made clear that this secret was serious enough that Dr. Shakur insisted it remain sealed until after Tupac's death. The secret was not financial, nor was it related to music rights or contracts. It was personal and deeply human. Tupac carried the weight of information about individuals in his life, people he trusted, and events that had occurred around him. Dr. Shakur described Tupac as cautious and strategic, never fully sharing what he knew because he feared that exposing it could create consequences he could not control. Dr. Shakur noted that this secrecy was part of Tupac's character, combining wisdom, fear, and protection. According to the statement, Tupac had confided in Dr. Shakur about moments of fear and hesitation, revealing only hints of what he carried. He spoke vaguely about situations that could lead to legal trouble, personal danger, or betrayal. He admitted that the truth he held could hurt people he cared about, and he wanted to prevent unnecessary harm while also ensuring that justice in some form could be served. Dr. Shakur recorded these conversations with precision, noting both Tupac's words and his tone, which was calm yet heavy with concern. The sealed statement also highlighted Tupac's internal conflict. He struggled with whether to reveal the information while alive, weigh the consequences of secrecy, or accept that the truth would remain hidden forever. Dr. Shakur advised caution, understanding that timing was crucial. Revealing certain facts prematurely could have escalated threats, endangered lives, or changed the trajectory of ongoing events in ways that could not be reversed. One striking revelation was that Tupac believed the secret had connections to both his personal safety and the safety of those he cared about. It was not just about protecting himself, it was about preventing harm to people who were innocent or vulnerable. Dr. Shakur noted Tupac's sense of responsibility, his careful calculation, and his determination to protect others, even if it meant carrying a heavy burden alone. The statement also suggested that Tupac saw the secret as intertwined with his public image and legacy. He was aware that exposure could redefine how fans, colleagues, and the broader public remembered him. In some cases, the revelation could overshadow his music, his art, and his achievements, turning public attention toward controversy instead of talent. Dr. Shakur recorded Tupac's concern that truth without context could create misunderstanding, even among those who loved him. The secrecy surrounding this revelation explained why Dr. Shakur insisted on sealing the statement. He understood the power of timing, the potential danger of immediate disclosure, and the long-term impact on multiple lives. He wrote explicitly that the statement should remain closed until Tupac was no longer alive, ensuring that the truth would be preserved but not exploited during a period of vulnerability. When the envelope was opened decades later, the world finally saw Tupac's caution, foresight, and responsibility. The secret, revealed in careful detail, shed new light on decisions he made, risks he took, and the calculated way he managed his life under constant pressure. It was a side of Tupac that had never been visible to the public, a man balancing brilliance, danger, and moral responsibility with unparalleled awareness of the consequences. The statement left one undeniable impression. Tupac's life was more complicated than fans or media could ever know. Beyond the music, beyond the fame, he carried burdens and knowledge that shaped his every move, and the secrecy he maintained reflected both intelligence and courage. Understanding this secret was key to understanding the man, the legend, and the circumstances that surrounded his death. The secret is revealed, but its implications ripple through Tupac's life, his legacy, and the people who were closest to him. How did this knowledge influence events leading to his death? And what does it mean for the truth about Tupac Shakur? The final chapter uncovers the full impact of the statement. The aftermath and legacy. After Tupac Shakur's death in September of 1996, the world reacted with shock, confusion, and grief. Fans poured into streets, memorials were created, and music stations played his songs non-stop. But beyond the public mourning, the sealed statement from Dr. Shakur introduced a layer of understanding that no one had expected. When the envelope was finally opened years later, it revealed not only details about his health and threats, but also the secret he carried and the wisdom he used to navigate a dangerous life. This revelation shaped the way people saw Tupac, not just as an artist, but as a person navigating intense challenges. The aftermath of the statement had multiple effects. First, it changed how his inner circle reflected on the events leading to his death. Friends, collaborators, and family members revisited past decisions, arguments, and moments of tension, now with the knowledge that Tupac had been carrying significant burdens alone. Some expressed regret for not understanding the full extent of the risks he faced. Others acknowledged his careful planning, recognizing that he had tried to protect everyone around him, even at personal cost. Dr. Shakur's record gave insight into Tupac's mind, showing a man who weighed every move, calculated every risk, and accepted danger as part of life. Second, the statement influenced public perception and media narratives. Before its release, media outlets often focused on sensationalized accounts of feuds, crime, or speculation surrounding his death. Many stories overlooked Tupac's intelligence, foresight, and responsibility. Once the statement became public, journalists and biographers began reassessing the events of 1995 and 1996, emphasizing Tupac's awareness, strategic thinking, and moral consideration. It was clear that he had been more than a rebel or a victim. He was someone who understood his environment, knew his vulnerabilities, and acted with intention, even when the consequences were uncertain. The statement also clarified the role of health and stress in Tupac's final months. Dr. Shakur's notes highlighted that the physical injuries he carried, combined with chronic fatigue from touring and performing, made him more vulnerable than fans and colleagues realized. Dr. Shakur documented how constant travel, confrontations, and lack of proper rest compromised his body's ability to recover. This information shifted the conversation about Tupac's life, from one focused solely on external threats to one that recognized the impact of the pressures of fame on a young man already burdened by risk. Another significant consequence of the statement was the effect on ongoing investigations and speculation surrounding his death. Tupac's assassination in Las Vegas had sparked theories for decades, involving rivalries, gang connections, and possible conspiracies. Dr. Shakur's notes did not provide a definitive answer about who was responsible, but they offered critical context about Tupac's mindset, the risks he faced, and the calculated ways he managed threats. Investigators, journalists, and historians could finally view his actions through a lens informed by his own awareness and preparation. While the mystery of his death remained, the statement reduced some of the speculation fueled by misunderstanding or incomplete information. The legacy of the secret revealed in the statement extended into Tupac's music and art. Songs that were written in the final months of his life carried layers of meaning that listeners had previously missed. Lyrics that seemed rebellious or confrontational now appeared as reflections of calculated risk and personal awareness. Fans, analysts, and fellow musicians revisited these works, interpreting them as evidence of a man grappling with danger, responsibility, and foresight. The statement added depth to his lyrics, showing that even his art was intertwined with the realities of his life. Dr. Shakur's record also emphasized the human side of Tupac. Beyond fame, threats, and secret knowledge, the statement highlighted his compassion, loyalty, and protective instincts. He was concerned not only with his own survival, but with the well-being of friends, collaborators, and even strangers who might be affected by conflicts around him. This perspective changed the way many remembered him, moving the narrative beyond controversy and tragedy toward admiration for his courage, intelligence, and moral choices. Tupac became more than a figure in popular culture. He emerged as a man who faced immense pressure with awareness and care. In the years following the opening of the sealed statement, new documentaries, biographies, and interviews referenced its contents. Scholars and historians analyzed Tupac's actions, words, and choices with Dr. Shakur's notes as a primary source. The revelation influenced discussions about celebrity vulnerability, responsibility in high-risk environments, and the pressures of life in the public eye. Tupac's story became a case study for understanding how talent, intelligence, and danger can intersect in ways that few can imagine. The public also reacted with renewed appreciation for Tupac's foresight. Many fans realized that his actions, public appearances, and choices were not reckless, as some had claimed, but deliberate responses to the challenges he faced. The statement revealed that he had thought carefully about timing, exposure, and trust, and that he had carried significant burdens alone to protect others. This understanding elevated the admiration for Tupac as both a musician and a man of principle, capable of balancing personal risk with moral responsibility. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.